এবং সেই চিঠিগুলোতে এই সারা বিশ্বের যে সংকট এবং মানে যে সংঘর্ষের কারণগুলো, দ্বন্দ্বগুলো, সেগুলোকে তারা উত্থাপন করেছেন। যে স্বামীকে পেয়েছিলেন অমর্ত্য সেন 2021 সালে, এবং তার পরের বছর পান সলমান রুশদি। ফলে তার যে গ্রহণযোগ্যতা বা তার যে মানে তার যে সাহিত্যের ক্ষেত্রে তার যে অবদান, বা তিনি এই অল্প বয়সেই যা লিখছেন, যে শক্তিশালীভাবে লিখছেন, সেটার একটা আন্তর্জাতিক স্বীকৃতি আছে, এবং তিনি ইউরোপে অনেক ভাষায় অনুদিত হয়েছেন। তখন আমার মনে হলো যে কি আমি তুলে।
ব্রতদা, তোমাকেও অনেক ধন্যবাদ, কারণ তুমিও অলরেডি দুটো কোয়েশ্চেনের আনসার দিয়ে দিয়েছো আমি যে কোয়েশ্চেনগুলো ভেবেছিলাম। তো যেহেতু আমাদের সেশনের টাইম খুব বেশি নয়, কারণ রিডিং সেশনটা খুব জরুরি, সো আই এম গোয়িং টু again another question to you, that how do you distinguish Serhi Zadan in this modern scenario of Ukrainian poetry? I'll ask another question to add it that I've seen Zadan's poetry is asking questions about poetry. Many of his poetry is written about poetry. How poetry should be written, how one should write poetry, and what should not be written, like this. Nah? So I have seen same thing happen to Polish poetry. When we go to Czesław Miłosz, when we go to Tadeusz Różewicz, then we see the same thing happens, that Polish poets at the age of say 50 or 55, they are asking the questions. When modernity, the modernism actually in Europe is quite a long period. So then why should one ask about the question how poetry should be written? These questions are already solved. This happens in Zadan again. I have watched that Zadan is asking the question why one should write poetry, when one should write poetry, what should not be written. So please, if you distinguish this kind of new aesthetics of Ukrainian poetry in Zadan.
I think it's a very important question, as Zadan influenced the whole generation probably of poets, following his aesthetics, his form, his style of writing. And you can always tell that, okay, this is Zadan's follower. But I think what Zadan is doing, he is addressing the world from a poet's point of view. Being a poet is a kind of a way, it's a way of perception of the world. And he's also a writer. He wrote a very important novel, Voroshilovgrad, about his city, Kharkiv. And even with the full-scale war, he stayed there, and he was very active as a volunteer, raising funds and helping the army, helping the other volunteers. But most important, he is now also a symbol. He is a symbol of resistance for many, many people. At the same time, Zadan, though in his novel Voroshilovgrad, he addresses lots of post-colonial trauma. He describes the world and people the way they are, without being too idealistic, but at the same time, he is in a way romantic. He's a very lyrical poet. His most famous poems, they are love poems actually. They are love poems. They are very lyrical and sensitive, but at the same time very strong. So maybe what he is trying to address is how else can we use poetry to react to the world and what is happening in it. I think this is what he's doing in his poems. How all these details around us, how do they construct poetry and how do they present the core, the essence of what is happening currently.